President Uhuru Kenyatta has called on Kenyans to step up the fight against gender-based violence, saying women must be treated with respect. The president said that gender-based violence stems from a mentality of viewing women as objects, as opposed to people who are of value and equal partners capable of high standards of leadership. President Kenyatta stated that in excluding women from the social economic agenda of the country, particularly when they make up more than half of its population, is equivalent to cutting one of your legs and hoping to be able to walk. He was speaking today during the Kenya Nimimi Summit at the Bomas of Kenya in Nairobi. The Kenya Nimimi actually is a dialogue platform for the Kenyan youth to actively participate in nation building and drive youth agenda in leadership, innovation, social cohesion, equality, and entrepreneurship.
And it is true, we have a challenge. And we have a challenge first and foremost starting with gender-based violence, especially during this particular period of COVID where people have been restricted, people have been at home. But we must go back into history and ask ourselves, where does this come from? Why is it that women are targeted and not necessarily boys? And that comes from an active mentality where we have seen women as objects, as opposed to human beings, as opposed to people who have the capacity and are equal partners in the destiny that we have together as a country. Today, women are 50-50 if you take the population. Actually, I think there are more women in Kenya than there are men. There are actually more women than men. And by leaving over half of your population outside the social economic agenda of a country, you're basically saying, unatembea na mguu moja na huu mwingine wewe mwenyewe umekata. Hiyo safari yako hutaweza kutimiza. You need both your legs, you need both your hands in order to be able to move forward. And that is why we are coming up with a very distinct and clear program. And we have said that it is important for us to recognize that women are equal partners with men.
As we heard what the president has said, women are equal partners with men. So it's good that we don't engage in gender-based violence, especially during this time of the coronavirus pandemic, where there is a lot of rise in gender-based violence. And the president, that is Uhuru Kenyatta, also called upon the youth in the society to be at the forefront in cultivating good virtues in the society. During the launch of the Kenya Nimimi Youth Initiative, the president said in his opening remarks that youth have been used for many years to cause violence in the society. Uhuru said that the youth are the majority in the society and should not wait to be given leadership opportunities, but rather grab them. He said that the BBI will also ensure that the youth as well as women in the society are included in the leadership.
Mutoke kwa kuwa watu wakuwa mnapatiwa handouts. Ati Uhuru amekuja ni nini anawaletea. Muwe watu ambao mtasema kwa viongozi wenu, hatutaki utuletee, tunataka kukuambia ni nini tunataka utubadilishie ndio sisi tuwe na uwezo wa kujipatia. That is the way you take control of your destiny. That is the way you take control of your future. That is the way you are going to stop issues of FGM. That is the way you are going to stop issues of gender-based violence. That is the way you are going to stop issues of electoral violence, where you people are the ones who shed blood fighting for a group of wazees who are sitting at home with their children with no issues, watching you on TV as you take pangas and other things against each other. You are one people, you have the same needs. You need work. You need to be empowered to get capital. You need education. You need to ensure you have a good roof over your head. You need to ensure you have good health. You need to ensure that your roads are functioning and working. You need to ensure that your pension and futures are dealt with. You need to ensure that your resources are not being stolen corruptly by a few individuals and you are left to mire in grime. Jameni, chukueni usukani. Muwe watu ambao mutakuwa muna dictate, sio kuwa dictated to.
And moving on, it's a reprieve for those seeking medical services at public hospitals after the health workers' strike planned to kick off today was suspended. In a statement signed by the Acting Secretary General Chibanzi Mwachonda, the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentist Unit KMPDU said the 14-day suspension is meant to allow for dialogue. According to Mwachonda, the decision was arrived at following a meeting of the National Advisory Council that deliberated on a request by the Senate and the National Assembly to suspend the industrial action and give dialogue a chance. This is what he had to say when he issued the strike notice last month.
All these matters would have been easily implemented if we had a health services commission in place. Our position is that we must, if the country will undertake any constitutional amendment, that health services commission must be an issue. You cannot talk about building bridges and then not building bridges with the health workforce in this country. If this sector is not important, then tell us once and for all. But don't take us round in circles and show us that you're trying to improve the sector, and yet on the other hand, you're not addressing the pertinent issues in this sector.
Yeah, you've heard Mwachonda very passionately talking about the rights of doctors and how doctors are being treated, especially during this time of coronavirus pandemic, because they are our soldiers on the forefront fighting the pandemic. And I think it's a good move by the medics just to call off the strike because, trust me, the country is facing a pandemic. It's facing a pandemic, and the last thing we want to hear is doctors going on strike. And when we come back, we look at why doctors were planning to strike and the medics' history with the COVID-19. But before that, I have a question that I need to ask you this evening. Do you think it was right for the doctors to plan their strike in the first place, given that it's the time for coronavirus pandemic? Do you think it was right for the doctors to plan their strike in the first place because it's the time for coronavirus pandemic? Remember, you can WhatsApp me on 0786316316 or you can SMS me on 20316, and later in the show, I'll be sampling some of your views. You're not telling me that it's just sometimes human for you to know that if people are suffering, you don't put your needs before the other people who are suffering. So, but we thank God that they called off their strike. I can see somebody over here, Phyllis Nungu from Saudi Arabia, saying that hakuna kitu hunichokesha akili kama stories za corona in Kenya. Sometimes I see if it's like a pyramid scheme that's going on. About the doctor strike, they have all the right to strike, but kwa uwezo wa Mungu, in the middle of a pandemic is wrong, even though God is in control. Thank you very much, Phyllis. Remember, you can also text me your views on 0786316316. That's my WhatsApp line, and you can SMS me on 20316, and I'll be sampling your views about the news. And moving on, now that even the medics union have called for temporary ceasefire, it is advising its members to remain cautious in their lines of duty, because all members are advised not to endanger their lives where there are no PPEs. That's according to the Secretary General that is the Secretary General Chibanzi Mwachonda. The Acting Secretary General advised the doctors to do that. And here is, that's why I'm asking myself the question, why were the doctors plotting to strike in the first place? Listen to this.
In July 2020, Kenya lost its first doctor to COVID-19. The 39-year-old Adisa Lugaliki succumbed to the virus within 48 hours of being admitted in hospital. The death came as a wake-up call on the vulnerability of health workers in the line of duty and a need to focus on their well-being at a time when community transmission of the virus is rife. Presently, more than 2,200 health workers have tested positive for the coronavirus, while 32 have died, with at least 10 of them in the last 3 weeks since the first case was reported in the country back in March. The question is, why did doctors and nurses threaten to go on strike when the country is facing a pandemic? Number one, because the government has failed to address the health workers' concerns about safety in fighting coronavirus. Doctors have complained about not receiving adequate personal protective gear. The doctors' union say all their requests are met with silence from the relevant government dockets. Number two, because the government has not addressed the staffing needs by health workers to fight COVID-19. The doctors' union has over and again called the government to employ at least 2,350 doctors and health workers to attend to the sick in various hospitals across the country. According to data from the World Bank, there are 0.157 doctors per 1,000 people in Kenya, compared to 2.817 in the UK and 4.249 in Germany. Number three, Because the government has not taken care of health workers' insurance, the Doctors' Union has over and again demanded for the compensation for the families of the health workers who died from COVID-19 and salaries for some health workers who have not been paid for months. To sum it up, while the national government has acknowledged the risk the health workers continue to face, workers have over and again criticized efforts set in place to protect them during the COVID-19 pandemic.
And moving on to Matters Health, still on Matters Health, where Health Cabinet Secretary, that is Mutahi Kagwe, is on the spot for failing to formally authorize the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority to sell the personal protective equipment at current market price. The agency's acting chief executive officer, Edward Njoroge, told the Senate Health Committee investigating the 7.8 billion shillings in regular procurement that KEMSA is currently selling a total of 115,000 PPEs at a whopping 9,000 shillings instead of 4,500 shillings in the market price.
For the 115, we bought them at the price that we bought in March, 9,000 Kenya shillings. So we are waiting for directions from the ministry on how to proceed with the stock that we have at 115,000 and at what the market rate.
The last meeting we had with CS Kagwe, he said that unfortunately someone has got to bear the loss. Those were his words. If you go to the handset, word for word, that's exactly what he said. So if we are serious about this pandemic, why can't we then just sell them with the current price? And we stick, Parliament is a house of record. So I think if the CS is not willing to commit in writing, we call him here.
And still talking on Matters Health and our health workers, the health workers actually treating COVID-19 patients say that work is taking a toll on their mental health, forcing some of them into depression and therapy.
John Moishohio is one of thousands of Kenyan medical workers treating COVID-19 patients. With the stress of the pandemic already on him, in late July he also tested positive for the virus.
As a human being also, I'm also thinking aloud that I'm positive for COVID. What will happen next? What if death comes? And it's not easy. It is really a traumatizing state, and especially being out there. You cannot tell people because you don't know how people will take it.
Moishohio is one or more than 700 Kenyan medical workers to test positive for COVID-19. A trained psychologist, he was so upset by the diagnosis, he had to seek counseling himself. He wasn't alone. On an August weekend, 50 medical workers from Tigoni Hospital Treatment Center attended mental wellness counseling sessions.
We have been going through a lot. The schedules have changed. We have been very busy, and so having a day off where you're having fun, forgetting there's COVID, it was very, 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 very rejuvenating.
I feel a bit lighter. I feel like I'm very relieved. I feel like I have now gained the strength to continue with my daily duties.
Like their colleagues worldwide, Kenyan medical workers have been working long hours to attend to patients infected with the virus.
A lot of those small trauma end up piling up, and it can be really psychologically distressing. So we decided that we will come here and have a day of expressive therapy, debriefing, art therapy, bonding, and having fun and games. It was a day to make the health workers feel like they are loved and appreciated.
With the pandemic ongoing, it is a day that these medical workers certainly needed. Mohammed Yusuf for VOA News, Nairobi.
You can hear the plight of the doctors out here, the plight of our doctors. I think the government should do something about our doctors because they are our soldiers on the front line. We should take care of them. They should not fall into depression when it comes to the matters of COVID-19. And I'd earlier asked you the question that do you think it was right for doctors to plan and strike in the first place, given that the country is facing the coronavirus pandemic? Do you think that it was right for the doctors to plan their strike in the first place, given that the country is facing the coronavirus pandemic? Remember, you can WhatsApp me on 0786 316 316. You can also SMS me on 20316, and I'll be sampling your views later in the news. And moving on with our stories, Kenya's 2020 London Marathon podium finishes have been ushered on a 5-day long familiarization holiday to key attraction sites in the country. This is part of an initiative by the Kenya Tourism Board in collaboration with the athletes to position Kenya both locally and internationally. Kenya Marathon has dominated the competition in the past decade, with Eliud Kipchoge winning the competition on 4 occasions, including the 2018 and 2019 editions.
I think it's important to understand the way that athletes put the destination on the map. As a marketing agency, KTB is proud to be able to, first of all, honor you and give you an opportunity as a nation to appreciate you for the work that you do for the nation. Every time the anthem is played, it puts Kenya on the map. So all of the work and the training and the commitment that you have towards your sport and towards your career, we really appreciate. And therefore, we want you to experience some of the beautiful scenes in this country that you promote so often and might not have an opportunity to have seen.
A great initiative by the Kenya Tourism Board over there. I think that's a very nice initiative to familiarize our country and bring around people to know that the greatest places in Kenya, we have a very beautiful country called Kenya. And you know very well that you can actually be the most organized person in the world. Like for me, I'm just one organized person, and I know I'm very, very much organized. And yet the Christmas season rarely fails to sneak up and throw you into a frenzy in the last minute. Given how much time there is to do, from shopping to meal planning to decorating, planning ahead for Christmas far in advance is the golden key to getting everything right. And I had a chance to talk to Pauline Kiraithe, who is the founder and director of Talent Gurus 254, and on how to plan for this holiday. Just listen to this.
For one to plan for a good Christmas holiday,
yes,
you should actually start planning the holiday you're done with the previous year's Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah, because the thing is, holidays are expensive.
Yes.
Yeah, and they take up a lot of money. So if you're intending to have a good holiday, then you need to plan for it throughout the year.
Yes.
So if you're waiting for your December salary so that you can have a good holiday in December, then it becomes very hard.
Yes.
Yeah, and then it also becomes strenuous to the family's budget. Yeah, so I always say, yeah, as I always say, the elephant is not eaten as a whole.
Yes.
It is eaten in small bits.
Small bits, yeah.
So you need to be saving every month. Put a standing order.
Yes.
That takes that money into an account for Christmas holiday. So that you know that by the time I get to December, at least I have a kitty that will help me, be able to save up for that grand holiday.
Yes.
And the same thing applies to any other holiday you want to take. Things are, you save for it in a bit size. Yeah. Yeah. So you don't wait to December for you to start looking for the money. That's why you find people get into debt. They went on holiday on a debt, and they took a loan so that they can be able to keep up with the Joneses, so that they can go on holidays.
Yes.
Yeah, but come January, reality hits home.
Yes.
You went on holiday, yes, but you have a big debt waiting for you to be paid.
Yes.
So people are perpetually in debt. So
yes.
I think for me is plan ahead. And if you find that you don't have that kitty, like maybe this year has been tough and there's even no money to save, it's fine to just have even a good meal with your family, where everybody contributes and everybody cooks a simple dish, and you come together and you eat together. So I think I always say you have to cut your garment according to your cloth.
Yes.
So don't feel the pressure that you need to do certain things because other people are doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And you have just talked us about how you need to plan your holiday immediately after you have done with the holiday, so that the other holiday you won't be straining, especially when it comes to your finance. And what are some of all those other strategies maybe that we can employ when it comes to how we plan the holiday, maybe any other holiday, maybe Christmas being included?
Yeah, so even like when you get those bonuses, I know some people will get even, they usually get end of year bonuses.
Yes.
That's the money you put into kitties, but make sure you have kitties for everything.
Yes.
Yeah, and save differently, so that now you know where to pick your money for what.
Yes.
Yeah. So have like a SACCO. The SACCOs usually even encourage you to even do those annual savings for school fees, for holidays. Yeah, so you can get into a savings scheme.
Yes.
That can help you towards those objectives.
Yes.
Yeah, so those are various ways you can do it.
Yes.
Yeah, so that you do not have quick access to that money, because we know what we can do with quick, easily accessible money.
Yes.
Yeah, so make it inaccessible to you, and then you'll find you tend to do much more with the money.
Yes. Great. Thank you very much, Pauline, for your insight about how we can actually plan for a holiday. I really appreciate your time, and God bless you so much. And I'd earlier asked you the question about this, the issue to do with the doctors' strike, because our doctors were actually planning to strike, although they called it off. But I earlier asked you the question that do you think it was right for the doctors actually to plan their strike in the first place, given that the country is facing the coronavirus pandemic? Do you think that it was right for the doctors to plan their strike in the first place, given that the country is facing the coronavirus pandemic? And checking your feedback, because I promised you that I will be reading some of your feedback, I can see Evelyn Mirenja telling me that this country is a joke because doctors are not paid. And she's also saying that that's why we need God-given leaders who value the life of the health workers. And I agree with you, Evelyn. I can see also somebody over here by the Martin Dungu from Gikomba. You're telling me that Modix, welcome back. Asante sana Martin, I really appreciate your warm welcome back to the show, and I'm really feeling at home because of your generosity, because of your good vibe that you have given me. I can also see somebody over here by the name of Lynette. Lynette telling me that the doctors need to be paid. It's not a matter of when, it's a matter of if the doctors will be paid, because she thinks that the doctors won't be paid even after calling off their strike. Then I can see somebody over here by the name of Wangeshi from Mirema telling me that it's okay for the doctors to strike because they're also human beings, and when they go to work and they're not being protected, we shall also put them as part of the statistics of the deaths in the country. I really agree with you. And remember, you can also send me your feedback on 0786316316. That's my WhatsApp line. You can SMS me on 20316 about the issue of the doctors. And the question is, do you think it is right for the doctors actually to plan their strike in the first place, given that the country is facing the coronavirus pandemic? And moving on to matters international, crossing the borders over to Ethiopia. Ethiopia says it had captured or killed most commanders of the rebellious Northern Force, while Tigray's fugitive local leader says occupying soldiers are engaging in looting, sparking civilian protests. Neither side gave proof for their assertions about the month-long war in the mountainous region bordering Eritrea. Fighting between, that's the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's federal army and the forces loyal to the region's former ruling party, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, that is TPLF, actually erupted back on November 4th.
After a month of military conflicts, Ethiopia's government says it has captured or killed most commanders belonging to the Tigray region's rebellious forces. It's a claim that Tigray's fugitive local leader is seeking to counter. He says civilians are protesting against looting by occupying soldiers from Eritrea, troops allied to the federal forces. Neither side gave proof of their assertions. Fighting between Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's federal army and forces loyal to the region's former ruling party, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, or TPLF, first erupted on November 4th. The mountainous region of Tigray, which borders Eritrea and Sudan, is very difficult to report on. Communications have been largely down there, and access for media is restricted, making claims from all sides impossible to verify. But it is believed that thousands of people have died, while more than 45,000 refugees have crossed into neighbouring Sudan. Reports on state TV countered claims of unrest, showing images of people shopping and sitting on stools in the Tigrayan capital of Mekelle, which fell to federal troops at the weekend. TPLF leaders had enjoyed strong popular support for years in Tigray, but they now appear to have fled to surrounding mountains and begun a guerrilla-style resistance. Ethiopia says the TPLF wants to internationalise the conflict as a way to force the government into mediation. Meanwhile, relief agencies are extremely worried about a lack of food, fuel, medicines and even body bags in Tigray. The UN has sounded the alarm about fighting and deaths around camps for Eritrean refugees, according to a Reuters source.
From Ethiopia, we cross the borders, and imagine this. You have a family. This is your niece, but your niece actually is telling the government that you need to be arrested. You need to be arrested, and yet you are one among the most powerful people in this world. And Mary Trump actually says that the uncle Donald Trump and his enablers must be held accountable. US President Donald Trump's niece says her uncle is criminal and cruel and belongs in prison after he leaves the White House. Mary Trump, a psychologist, author, and outspoken critic of her uncle Donald Trump, rejects the notion that putting a former president on trial will deepen the nation's political divisions.
In his view, winning is so important and he always deserves to win that it's okay to lie, cheat, and steal. You know, it's not the process, it's getting the win in your column, right? He's in a situation now where he cannot change the fact that he lost. He lost decisively. He performed very badly compared to other Republicans. Who actually beat expectations. So there's nobody to blame but himself. So he's spinning madly. He's desperate. And, you know, I said this before, if he thinks he's going down, he's going to take the rest of us down with him. I think his cruelty is a way to flex his power. Who's going to stop him? Nobody. And that's something we've seen in the last 4 years, which I personally did not anticipate, although I guess in retrospect I should have. It's not simply that Donald is horrible and incompetent and cruel. It's that he's been allowed to be. Every transgression that's gone on unpunished has been an opportunity for him to push the envelope even further. So, you know, that's partially why we're going to see him smashing as much stuff on his way out the door as he can. I think it would be a tragedy if Donald and everybody who's enabled him and committed crimes with him is not held accountable. It would be, I think it would make it impossible for this country to recover in the long term. You know, a lot of people in this country know that there really isn't justice, but at least there's an idea of justice. There's an aspiration towards justice. That will no longer be the case if somebody who is as criminal, cruel, and traitorous as Donald Trump isn't held accountable.
Actually, I don't know what you think about that. There's always, and there'll always be some kind of sarcasm when it comes to the Donald and the family. And moving on to matters WHO, where the World Health Organization says the world is seeing the end of the COVID-19 pandemic, but warned that inequalities in distributing a vaccine and other therapeutics could have deepened the economic and social consequences. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, the Director General of the World Health Organization, encouraged countries to invest in basic health functions and especially primary health care if the world is to avoid another crisis of a massive magnitude like the coronavirus.
With positive results in recent weeks from vaccine trials, the light at the end of the tunnel is growing steadily brighter. Although the path ahead remains treacherous, we can begin to glimpse the end of the pandemic. We simply cannot accept a world in which the poor and marginalized are trampled by the rich and powerful in the stampede for vaccines. This is a global crisis, and the solutions must be shared equitably as global public goods, not as private commodities that widen inequalities and become yet another reason some people are left behind. We need a radical rethink of the way we view and value health. It's time to do this. Accordingly, I have established a new council on the economics of health for all to examine and elucidate the links between health and inclusive, innovation-led economic growth. If the world is to avoid another crisis on this scale, investments in basic public health functions, and especially primary health care, are essential.
And I just had to mention this. Agnes from Buruburu, you're saying that you're enjoying the show, and it's been exactly a year since you listened to Family Radio and watched Family TV, but now you are back. I can assure you, Agnes, hakuna mali utaenda. You shall stick with us, and we really value you for coming back and being part of this great family of Family Radio and Family TV. And finally, a 15-year-old Colorado high school student and young scientist who has used artificial intelligence and created apps to tackle contaminated drinking water and cyberbullying has been named Times Magazine first ever Kid of the Year.
It's so honoring and humbling to be on the cover of the magazine, first of all, among so many other amazing people who have been featured on the cover of Time. And I'm so grateful and just so excited that we're really taking a look at the upcoming generation and our generation, since the future is in our hands. So I like to say that our generation is growing up in this place where we're seeing problems that have never existed before, like the global warming crisis. But then again, we're also seeing problems that still exist, like the pandemic that we're all sitting at home in. And things like that are what motivates me to come up with solutions, is we're facing problems more than ever right now. And it's time for us to come together to make a difference. And innovation isn't an option anymore, and it's a necessity.
My device is called Tethys, and it detects lead and water faster than the current techniques out there today.
One of my most recognized devices is called Tethys, which helps detect lead in drinking water. Then I created a device called Epione that diagnoses prescription opioid addiction at an early stage. I also created a service called Kindly, which is able to detect and prevent cyberbullying at an early stage based on the latest developments in artificial intelligence. And currently I'm looking back at water, looking at moving things, so like parasitic compounds in water and how we can detect for that.
Hey, that's very challenging and a very incredible story. What were you doing when you're 15 years old? And what are you telling your kids, your young kids, to do? I think this is just another kind of a story that actually makes you know that you can do anything that you want to do out here, as long as you have a purpose and you have the determination to do it. And I just want to thank everyone else who decided to text me in and just listen and keep me company during the whole show from 4 p.m. on radio until 7 p.m. on TV, on both radio and TV. I just want to thank Lynette from Nairobi, Timothy wa Uba. I want to thank Frederick. I want to thank Mama J. I want to thank Anne from Uhuru Market, Joe from Umoja, Kennedy Betty, Phyllis Ndungu all the way from Saudi Arabia, and Martin Ndungu. Asante sana for keeping me company. Remember that you can do this. We shall be doing this tomorrow, same time, same place, coming up with the prayer circle. And remember, you can send in your SMS requesting your prayers on 20316. You can also WhatsApp on 0786 316 316, and we shall pray with you. From me and the team, it's adios and God bless you.
This and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs, from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.